Well, hello again, and I know that just the thought or just the suggestion that I could be wrong is just simply preposterous. And yeah, here I am, right again. Yeah, I've been watching a few YouTube videos, and of course the skiff, you know, the secret meeting that the senators were having with these whistleblowers was a complete fizzer. Senator Burchett came out of it and he said, yeah, well, you know, they're telling us that these things don't exist and that there's no credible evidence, no convincing evidence to suggest ET is coming here. But, you know, what are they spending all this money on? All this money's going somewhere. Now, the fact that there's a lot of missing money doesn't mean it's being spent on UAP or UFO research, does it? It could be going anywhere. Anyone seen that movie Charlie Wilson's War? You know, it could be going to support people opposing a regime, holding a regime up anywhere. You know, it's all stuff they don't want people to know about. It's got nothing whatsoever to do with extraterrestrials. And Senator Burchett really has started making all the wrong noises. Now, I support what he's doing. I'd like him to keep pushing, but he's sort of pushing in the wrong direction. He's saying things like, well, Grush is a decorated military veteran, you know, his word's good enough for me, and you know, these are the best fighter pilots in the world, and if they say they saw something that's, you know, alien technology, then I believe it, you know. And that is not a suitable that is not a suitable benchmark. You know, if you don't have tangible evidence, these are such extraordinary claims. I hope the microphone is okay. It's a little bit breezy today. I hope you can hear me okay. It's not sort of. But these are such extraordinary claims that they do require extraordinary evidence. And Senator Burchett is saying, well, he believes these guys simply because they're fighter pilots, or simply because Grush is a military veteran, you know, decorated military veteran, whatever. That's unacceptable. That is not evidence. And he really should not be taking their word for it. I mean, especially when it comes to Fravor. You know, because Fravor said that, you know, the tic-tac was low to the ocean, and if you look at the actual numbers on the F-18 head-up display, do a little bit of trigonometry. Sorry, trigonometry. it shows that the tic-tac was at 13,800 feet. And I think that Fravor had his head full of this, you know, the sky is full of UFOs, go and investigate. He's gone out there, he's expecting to see a UFO. When he sees this thing, and he's gone diving towards it, because he thinks it's low to the surface, it's actually at 13,800 feet. Do a bit of trig with the numbers on the screen, head-up display on the F-18. He's gone past it at 13,800 feet and he thinks it's coming up to meet him. And because he's not used to flying around almost stationary objects at high speed in a jet, he thinks it's doing high-speed manoeuvring, because that's the impression he gets. The other thing too is that Fravor said that the encounter lasted 5 minutes. Alex Dietrich, his wingwoman, said that it lasted 10 seconds. To suggest that it lasted 5 minutes was ridiculous. He'd run out of fuel. We don't see a 5-minute clip, do we? I can't remember now what the duration of the track duration was, but I did do a video about it. So they've said that it sort of ticked a little bit forward. They've made a little bit of progress in that now military pilots, airline pilots can report UAPs and UFOs without any repercussions. Personally, I think that's worthless, because, you know, I saw this, it flew past my plane, you know, it's worthless. Without tangible evidence, these are such extraordinary claims that it's ET, that you need extraordinary evidence. That is not extraordinary evidence. It never will be extraordinary evidence. Graves was saying, oh, you know, this needs to be addressed urgently, you know, because it's a danger to flight operations. The sky's full of alien spacecraft. You know, pretty high high point here. I don't see any alien spacecraft. Never seen alien spacecraft. And in the history of human aviation, no aircraft has been brought down by an alien spacecraft, by colliding with an alien spacecraft, by being attacked by an alien spacecraft. There are a couple of stories out there, but there's no evidence that it was an alien spacecraft. I mean, there was one in Australia, a guy with a Cessna. He's talking to air traffic control, and he says, "Oh, you know, there's something above me." "Oh, it's not a plane," you know, and that was it. Last he was, no one's seen or heard of him since. When they tell that story, they don't tell you that. And let's just wait for the breeze to stop rustling the leaves. Fred Valentich, was it? But they don't tell you that he had no chance. His dream was to become a commercial pilot, and he had no chance of achieving that. That he hired an aircraft to fly to an island to pick up some fish. There was no fish waiting for him at the island. That was just a nonsense story. Normally he took his girlfriend with him. On this occasion he didn't. He was a UFO enthusiast, flying saucer nut. So the other theory is that he decided to kill himself, and he rented a plane, left his girlfriend at home, made up a cock and bull story about picking up some fish from this island, probably flew in a completely different direction, and then reported to ATC that he was being attacked by a UFO and that he crashed the plane in the ocean. That's probably what happened to Valentich. And the other one, Mantell, again, they say he was affected by a UFO. There's no evidence of that, you know. He probably just climbed up looking at who knows what. He ran out of oxygen or whatever it was and fell out of the sky. There's no evidence to say there was any ET interaction. No spectacular damage to the aircraft that could be analysed and said to be, you know, oh yeah, okay, don't know what did this. So there is no evidence for one single case of an aircraft being brought down by an alien spacecraft. And Graves is jumping up and down saying this is critical, it's critical. That's complete nonsense, of course. So Senator Burchett is going to arrange another meeting. It's going to be a public one. And he said that last time he did this, and he invited along these people that told him they had first-hand experience, and they all backed out. They all said they were being threatened, you know, by NASA and by government departments and other commercial organisations. They were being threatened. So personally, I think that's a lot of crap. I think they fed Tim Burchett a lot of crap because they knew he'd lap it up, you know, flat out like a lizard drinking, as we say here in Australia, and lap it up. And of course, as soon as he said, okay, you know, put up or shut up, we'll get you in there and we'll get some tangible evidence presented. Oh no, they can't do that. They're being threatened. This is the UFO ET equivalent of the dog at my homework. You know, so he said now he's going to do it. He's not going to publish a list of witnesses. I don't recall him publishing a list of witnesses before, to be perfectly honest. I would be curious to see who's on this list of witnesses that all let him down before. I wouldn't be at all surprised if the usual suspects were on there. You know, Eric Davis and Hal Puthoff. And I strongly suspect exactly the same thing's going to happen. He's going to try and get the people in there, and they're going to say they're all going to back out at the last minute. So what he should do is just subpoena, as I said on the last couple of videos, the core people, you know, director of the OGA, Eric Davis, Hal Puthoff, and just for a laugh, just for a bit of comic relief, Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar will be there, oh, you know, thermometer in his mouth, you know. Oh, I feel terrible, Tim. I can't come. I've got a note from my mum. I've got COVID. I shouldn't have said that. I'll probably get the video taken down, probably. Let's hope not. But anyway, whether you're you know, a basement bedsit dwelling hobbyist, you know, or a US political lobbyist, I told you so. There would be nothing to it, and there's nothing to it. You know, and Ross Coulthard, he's had a briefing, you know, from someone that was at the skiff, probably Tim Burchett. Well, it might be David Grush. And he said that, well, they've said that there's no convincing evidence that ET is coming here or has ever been here. He said, yeah, but Arrow doesn't speak for the Pentagon. And I thought, well, Arrow is the department the Pentagon set up to investigate this sort of stuff. So, I mean, if it may not speak for the Pentagon officially, then whatever they tell the Pentagon is what the Pentagon is going to say about UFOs and UAPs, isn't it? So it's clouding the issue a bit. What clouds the issue even more is, I can't remember if Coulthard said that it was that Grush's complaint was valid, was credible and urgent. You hear a lot of this, and it's sort of blurring a couple of things here, you know. And there was a complaint against Grush's boss. Now, the two should be kept completely separate, I think. The complaint he's got against his boss is probably the way his boss was treating him. It's got nothing whatsoever to do with, you know, ET or UAP. It may, in that Grush was driving everybody mad, running around telling everybody it was all true. He knew it was true because Eric Davis had told him, or Hal Puthoff had told him. And his boss has said, you know, FFS, shut up. You're driving everybody mad with this bullshit. And Grush was sort of driven out of his job in the military or in the Pentagon or wherever it was. And that was what the complaint was about. It's got nothing whatsoever to do with UFO, UAP transparency. You know, it's someone should put an FOI in for what Grush's credible and urgent complaint actually is. I hope the Black Vault's done that. He's very, very good at that. I think it's John Greenwald, because I'll bet it's purely a complaint against his boss about the way he was treated. That's what's credible and that's what's urgent, because they don't want bullying in the military, you know. That in itself is quite funny, isn't it, when you consider the drill sergeant, you know, with the sort of going through the basic training. Yeah, I'm sorry, Sergeant, you're bullying me. Anyway, so the bottom line is that you know, that there's nothing to it, and Coulthard is blurring this complaint Grush has got against his boss with the complaint about UFO transparency. I think he's doing that deliberately because he's got books to sell. I don't think there's much. I don't think there's much credibility to any of this stuff, and especially when Coulthard says, well, you know, I think the least likely explanation is extraterrestrial. He thinks it's interdimensional or something. And as soon as people start talking about other dimensions, you know, remote viewing, talking to aliens with their minds, just put a line through anything they've got to say. It's complete and utter nonsense. I mean, as far as I'm aware, other dimensions are purely theoretical. And from the little I understand about it, or the little I've read about it or seen about it, these other dimensions may in themselves not even be three-dimensional. So, if they exist at all. So, if you manage to transport yourself into another one of these dimensions, you'd be a flat sheet, you know, 12 foot long, 5 foot wide. And then when you transported yourself back into this dimension, you just flop on the floor, pardon me, like a carpet. So, I think it's safe to say you can put a line you can put a line through any of this interdimensional claptrap, put a line through anything that's got to do with summoning ET, with your mind, with your conscience, you know, remote viewing. And although I've shown a couple of bits of this place here, you know, I showed a bit of the inside when I did the thing with the Apollo defectives, and I'm showing a little bit of it here. you know, I've put an open invitation out there. It's been out there for years. You know, any remote viewer can accurately describe my place. You know, my vehicles, makes, models, colours, the house, how many rooms has it got, how many floors has it got. You know, open invitation. Not one remote viewer has taken me up on it. Not one. What does that tell you? Tells me that remote viewing is a lot of claptrap. Now, okay, so I've covered the Burchett and where the money's going. As I said, he's got no idea where the money's going. He's saying they're spending all this money, but it's not. They're not spending it on UAP, UFO research. It can be spent on anything. What else was there? Oh yeah, I was looking at Stephen Greenstreet from the New York Post, a couple of videos of his, and I strongly recommend you check his stuff out. It's very, very good. He does this sort of thing very professionally, this debunking. He looks right into it. And I was looking at an interview he did with Luis Elizondo, and I've always thought that, you know, I saw a couple of interviews with Luis Elizondo, and I thought, this is completely and utterly pointless. All this guy ever says is, I can't tell you anything. I can't talk about that. And Stephen Greenstreet really got him beautifully, I thought, because he's interviewing Elizondo, and Elizondo's saying, oh yeah, well, what you do, it's the same as a car crash. You know, you look at the vehicles, and if they've got black boxes, you look at those, and you look at the wreckage and everything else. And Greenstreet said to him, yes, in the UFO context here, the ET craft, and Greenstreet said to him, is that what you're doing? Is that what you've done? And immediately Elizondo went, and he put his head down like that, and you can tell he's thinking, what am I going to say now? You know, oh shit. And he said, and still looking down at the table like that, he said, oh, you could just see his little goatee wiggling around. He says, oh, I can't talk about that. And he can't talk about it because it's science fiction rubbish. You know, everything about Elizondo is wobbly. You know, he's got 2 resignation letters. One where he's had a time-critical job offer, and another one that relates to ETs, UAPs. And his time-critical job offer was with the History Channel. For his unidentified television program, and he was a security chief at the TTSA. You know, Tom DeLonge, been told by Eric Davis, now put off. Yeah, we've got alien spacecraft. We can build one here. You know, all we need is money. So Tom DeLonge's made a bit of a goose of himself by appearing there, showing an artist's impression of the spacecraft he's going to build, interstellar spacecraft. You know, and of course it's complete and utter rubbish. There's no sign of it. You know, send me your money, and I'll build you a spacecraft. I'll build a starship. Because he's been told by these people that have been spruiking all this bloody rubbish for years, if not decades, oh yeah, we can do that. Just as Grush has been told by the same people. There's a little core of people that are spreading all this rubbish to all of these people that are putting themselves in front of the cameras and talking about it. Like Ross Courtard. You can bet your life the people, the insiders that he knows, are going to be Eric Davis and Hal Puthoff, you know. Lou Elizondo. The same names over and over and over again. And Gary Nolan. You know, obviously Gary Nolan is not a dimwit. He's a highly respected scientist. And he's got integrity as well, I think, because he actually revealed the Atacama alien that Richard Dolan and Stephen Greer put forward, I think, was actually human, deformed human. So he's a fanboy, but he's got integrity. You know? So if you've got any biological ET material, certainly worth sending it to Gary Nolan. Not so sure about other stuff, you know, technological stuff that would be more suited to be looked at by physicists and those sort of people. You know, he's obviously a very clever guy, but he's lapped up the Kool-Aid a few weeks before Christmas 22. You know, he's being interviewed and he said, oh yeah, I know it's all real. Yeah, I've been told by insiders it's all real. And he said, I know it's coming. It's coming before Christmas. He's been told by the insiders. I know what's coming. That's Christmas 22. Came and went. I made a video at the time saying, I'll make a bold prediction. I know what's coming. Absolutely nothing. And that's what came. Nothing. Christmas 2023. It's come and gone. Nothing. And here we are today. Nothing. You got the same people going round in circles. And until I might actually see if I can drop Senator Burchett an email and just say to him, look, Senator Burchett, keep it as simple as possible. Keep the UAPs and UFOs here, ET here. Separate the two. Because while they're lumped together, there's always going to be stuff that's redacted, there's always going to be stuff that's classified, because it's terrestrial classified technology. It's as simple as that. You've got to separate the two, and then this ET nonsense can finally be dropped in the bin. Because if you do that, just get Hal Puthoff, Eric Davis, the director of the OGA, and for comic relief, Bob Lazar, subpoenaed, get them in there, make it publicly available, not in a skiff, and just say, okay, do you eat to each one of them, do you have any of this material? Have you ever worked on any of this material? Where, when, where are the samples? Where is the tangible evidence that this is real? And if none of them can produce anything, then it's not real. And the people that have been jumping up and down saying, oh, you know, truth embargo, you know, it's all been a lie since 1947 and, you know, all this sort of stuff, may finally get it into their thick heads that none of it is real, that it is all absolute science fiction, claptrap. And, you know, I think even Tim Burchett says, you know, it's been covered up since 1947, you know. When the slightest bit of research will show you that what they found was Mogul balloon string number 4. The director of the Mogul balloon program said he fell about laughing when he said he saw the recovered disc story on the front page of the Roswell Bugle, whatever it's called, Roswell Daily Record, because he knew what they'd found. And because they'd found the remnants of a balloon string, if you actually read what Mac Brazel had to say about it, you know, he scraped it all up, put the whole lot of it on his kitchen table. You reckon the whole lot weighed about 15 pounds or something, 10 pounds, 15 pounds? But because that's the truth of it had to be embellished. They never found any propulsion system, they never found any aliens, you know. It had to be embellished. So there had to be a second crash site where they found the propulsion system and they found the crew. You know, it's just nonsense. It's just... So to put this to bed, separate UAP, UFO from ET, get 4 people subpoenaed, get them in there, just like they did before with the, you know, on YouTube, the televised congressional guys, you know, in front of Luna and Mace and Burchett and the other guy, and just ask them those questions, and it will all fall in a heap. It will all fall in a heap very rapidly. There's actually a bushfire not too far from here. Well, it's on the horizon. It's very, very smoky over there. I'm surprised I haven't heard more aircraft flying over, actually, because there's a small airport over there where they keep the firefighting planes and helicopters. I'm pretty sure that's what that is going to be. Sometimes it's like being in a Vietnam War movie, you know, loads of helicopters flying over. Maybe I should film some of that. At least that's real and tangible. And of course you've got, you know, people like George Knapp. Freely admits there's no evidence, it's all stories. You know, Jeremy Corbell that'll push any old crap. You know, it's his personal opinion, of course. pushing all these videos up, you know, the Mylar balloon, Mosul UFO, and the parachute flares over American base, you know. And I saw him being interviewed, and he said, oh yeah, since he's got into this UFO business, he said he's making a really good living, so much so that he said he doesn't have to get up in the morning, you know, he doesn't have a schedule he has to stick to. You know, basically he doesn't want to go back to teaching yoga, because the UFO flying saucer business is such a good grift. And get yourself into Corbell's position, you can make some serious money out of it. And that's what it's all about. There's no integrity with the reporting. You know, see something strange and it's an alien spacecraft, and he will attack people that say otherwise. And I was watching another Stephen Greenstreet thing actually that I thought was really good with his Skinwalker Ranch thing, and he said when he posted the last Skinwalker Ranch, you know, there's nothing to it, it's all hogwash video. The guy that owns Skinwalker Ranch made a video, and he was saying, oh, you know, people that put all this down are pigs, they're just squealing swine. And I was falling about laughing when I saw that. I can't thank you enough for your videos, Mr. Greenstreet. You do excellent work. And Stephen Greenstreet actually said, well, if I'm a pig, oink oink. And I'd have to comment on his channel saying, yeah, oink oink. I love your work, Mr. Greenstreet. And I thought, the guy that owns Skinwalker Ranch, to carry on like that, you know, he's obviously not someone that's used to having people come up against him or say no to him. It's all yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full sir. Of course, he's the guy with the checkbook, he's the billionaire, you know. It's not Bigelow, it's some other guy. And I thought, carrying on like that shows, this is a personal opinion, shows what sort of personality he's got, or lack of personality, you know, or complete lack of character. You can't just say, well, you know, Mr. Greenstreet said he didn't find anything. You've seen the films that he made. Well, you know, that's that. But after all those years and all those cameras, as Mr. Greenstreet pointed out, they couldn't produce a scrap of evidence. There was a couple of really crappy videos of little things dancing along, making a bird fly away. I'm going to do a video about that, because if you play that frame by frame, those things disappear before they get anywhere near the bird. It's obviously a fudge video, personal opinion. I think fudged video. And when you think the place is supposed to be crawling, you know what I'm trying to say, don't you? When the place is supposed to be crawling with something as spectacular as dino beavers, you know, infestation, you'd think they'd have some footage. You'd think they'd have some footage of the werewolf, you know. But the best evidence they could, after all these years and all these cameras and this massive control room they've got in this supercomputer, the best evidence they could show Greenstreet, and it's on his video, if I can find that video, I'll leave a link to it below, is a couple of little dots moving around. It's all shot in infrared, you know, so if you shoot these things in actual video rather than infrared, then they'd look completely different. And one of them, Mr. Greenstreet, said, he said, oh, I think, and the video was of this little glowing object, and it's sort of moving across between a bush and, you know, another bush. And he said, I think that's a spider spinning a web. And I think, yeah, I think he's right, you know, because here in Australia we get quite big spiders, and I've actually driven a Land Cruiser through a spider web. Spider web was across the road. Said, all right, it's a dirt track, it's a little bit wider than a Land Cruiser. I was going up to have a look at one of these installations up on a hill, and I was driving down this dirt track, and I thought, wow, is that really a spider web, you know? And there's a big golden orb spider sitting in the middle of it. And when I got up to where I was going, a lot of the web was wrapped around the bull bar, all around the front of the Land Cruiser. The spider was still sitting in the middle of it. I just sort of left it there, no problem. But they're all over the place, these golden orb spiders. And I've actually seen them spinning these webs across a track. So you're talking about a track 10 feet wide, probably. And that's exactly what they do. They let the silk out from the rear end of the spider, and it just floats on the wind, and it will go 10 feet across to the bush or the tree on the other side, and it will walk across, it walks back, and goes again, blows across again, walks back again, blows across again, and they make these huge webs. And that's what I think. I think Mr. Greenstreet was right. That's what he was looking at with that thing, just sort of. And this was the floating around. This was the best evidence. He said, "Can you show me? You know, you've got all this recording equipment, all these cameras, been here for years. Can you show me the best evidence you have of paranormal activity?" And that's what they showed him. As I said on the video yesterday or the day before, absolutely pathetic. There's nothing to any of this paranormal rubbish. There's nothing to remote viewing. There's nothing to, you know, communicating with aliens with your consciousness. It's all tinfoil hat rubbish. And I think it might dawn on Mr. Burchett before too long that you know, if his next set of witnesses say, yeah, we've been working on this stuff, and then they all run away and hide under the table, the penny I think is going to drop with Mr. Burchett that it is all rubbish, complete and utter drivel. Was there anything else? I mentioned Lua Elizondo being a complete waste of time. Was there anything else? They got no idea where the money's going. Pardon me. They don't know it's going on UAP research. You know, so Burchett saying, "This is all this money. They're spending it on something, yeah, but it's got nothing to do with alien spacecraft." All his witnesses, when all these people that have been feeding him all this rubbish, saying they've been working on this stuff, when he said, "Okay, come along and present your evidence," oh no, suddenly they're all running away, hiding under the table. Their lives are threatened. I remember what I said yesterday, you know, when the woman was interviewing Grush. He said the same thing, that they fear for their lives, they won't come forward. And she said, "Well, why have you come forward?" And he said, "For my own protection." It's all rubbish, isn't it? None of it makes any sense. So why can't any one of these other people just come forward for their own protection and say, "Here's a windscreen wiper off of an alien scout ship that crashed. You know, there's a couple of little bits and pieces. There you go, tip them out on the table. Get them analysed, get them independently verified that this is an alien material." I'm not going to do that, they'll run away. Bob Lazar has been hiding under the table ever since these hearings started, because he doesn't want to know anything about it, because he knows it's all science fiction rubbish. People have looked at his explanations of how this gravity drive thing works. It's nonsense. It doesn't. It's rubbish. And pretty safe bet to pick out element 115, you know, because it would have been the next thing on the periodic table that was to be discovered. These things are being discovered all the time. Well, not all the time, from time to time. So he knew at some point that was going to be discovered. And they say, "Oh, well, he must be legit because he knew element 115. But element 115 is completely useless as a fuel, you know. It's complete and utter nonsense. So, yeah, I think that was about it. Was there anything else? What's the time? You can probably hear the neighbours coming back from the Sunday lunchtime. Sunday roast. Sunday roast in Australia, 40 degrees heat. Yeah. Sunday lunch at the pub. Was there anything else? Covered the interdimensional thing, the remote viewing thing. Yeah, they've moved it along by saying pilots can report this stuff without any repercussions, both civilian and military pilots. Worthless, really, because they're just going to be stories. We're not interested in stories, regardless of who they're from. Gordon Cooper, the astronaut, he saw this source of land at some Air Force base, and the guy get out, you know, 3 little landing gear come out, and alien came out, and then he admitted later on that he hadn't seen anything like that at all. It was just a story that someone had told him. So, yeah. So just put a line through any of this stuff until you see any tangible evidence, you know. I mean, there's people playing around with it, trying to grift a living out of it. Not so much Gary Nolan, he's pretty well off anyway. I mean, his SOL foundation he's set up, you know, this shit out of luck foundation. There's got a few people involved with it. I don't know whether they're pulling money out of it, but he said he's not. But it's not going to go anywhere. You know, it's all very well getting a dozen academics and chucking them in a box and talking about this over a weekend and then coming up with a load of protocols with regard to what you're going to do and how you're going to handle this extraterrestrial material, but you have to have the material to apply the protocols to. If you don't have that material, you're wasting your time. It's just a 2-day jolly, you know. Beer and steaks in the desert for a bunch of PhDs. That's all it is. So I can't honestly see the shit out of luck foundation coming up with anything. I really can't see Avi Loeb coming up with anything with his UFO detector on the roof of the Harvard University, trying to entice aliens to fly directly above it, which is how close they'd have to be, really. After flying light years through space, I think it's pretty unlikely. Oh, and something I said yesterday I got wrong, really. 2 things. One was, that was the day before yesterday. There was 3 things I got wrong. I said that interstellar travel probably wouldn't be physically possible within a human lifetime. And when you're talking about voyages taking 70,000 years to get to the nearest star, it's not going to be possible within many human lifetimes. So it's probably not going to be physically possible. As I say, the guys need to get a really good understanding of dark matter, dark energy, before they can say whether it's going to be possible or not. But flying through the galaxy, you know, at fractions of light speed and all this sort of thing, it's still going to take a long time. And if you hit a rock just floating around in space as big as a brick at those sort of speeds, it's going to go right through the spacecraft. You know, so it's a very dangerous business to actually physically do it. I mean, in science fiction, all these things are easily solved. You know, you can solve any problem in science fiction can be solved with 1 line of text. What if your starship hits a rock? You know, okay, well, we'll have navigation shields. In Star Trek, we've got navigation shields. You know, obviously you're not going to switch them on. The default for those will be on all the time. You know, you couldn't have someone forget to switch them on, and then you go flying through space, and the rock comes through your spacecraft. But what would be the other thing? Inertial damping, yeah, because really, if you were in a spacecraft and you accelerated it to a fraction of light speed, your crew's going to turn to liquid, and the science fiction, okay. Inertial damping. Inertial damping, default setting for the inertial damping would be on. So the crew didn't get turned to pulp every time they accelerated. See how easy science fiction is. Science fact, very, very difficult when it comes to flying around the galaxy. What else was there? Science fiction. Oh yeah, the solar sails. I was watching somebody. I think he was a sort of credentialed professor or something. And he's talking about making a 10 square kilometre solar sail to get to the nearest star. And this is just a robot mission, you know, just cameras and communication, just a probe mission, if you like. There's no crew involved. But that's going to whip around the sun. The sun's going to be blasting the all the solar energy, solar radiation onto the sail. It's going to accelerate it up to a fraction of light speed, so that it can get to Proxima Centauri within a reasonable amount of time. I can't remember if he actually said within a human lifetime. But you've got an additional problem with that, and that is that once you've accelerated something up to those kinds of speeds in space, you know, how are you going to slow it down and stop it so that it will actually go into orbit around a planet around Proxima Centauri, Proxima b, or whatever it is you want to look at. because once it's going that fast, you're going to need an awful lot of energy to slow it down. Otherwise, it's just going to go past, you know, you're talking about 0.2 of light speed, it's going to go past the planet you want to take the pictures of. So space is very, very hard. Trying to travel around to other star systems, very, very hard. May not be physically possible to do it with a starship with a crew on it. It may just be interstellar probes. And even once it gets there, you've got to wait 4 years for the information to come back, you know, from Proxima Centauri. So it's not like Star Trek, it's not like Star Wars. You know, it's just looks and sounds great. You can lose yourself in that, but you know, trying to do that for real, very, very different kettle of fish. Blimey, I think I've been going for what, 35 minutes? I've probably still forgotten about something. I should have some cheat sheets really. I'll try and make another video, maybe not during the week, maybe, but I want to include some clips, some of the clips that I've mentioned here, you know, about the frugal guy that owns the Skinwalker Ranch, talking about pigs and swine, Stephen Greenstreet saying oink oink, and him interviewing Lou Elizondo when he went, when Elizondo went, real gotcha that was. I really can't talk about that. If I was Greenstreet, I think I would have said to him, what's the point of coming on here, Lou? You know, if you can't talk about any of this stuff, what is the point of you sitting there? And I saw Elizondo being interviewed with something else. Have you actually personally seen any evidence to suggest that we're not alone, that ET is coming here? And his eyes rolled from one side to the other, he looked up in the air, and he said, well, I've seen something that strongly suggests that we may not be alone. And I thought, well, if it's strongly suggesting, you know, you should be it's strongly suggesting that we may not, he won't go over the line. He won't say, yeah, I've seen it, it's real, because it isn't. None of it is. I'm going to finish off how I started, and that is told you so, told you so, told you so. UFO fanboys, you're wasting your time. There will not be any disclosure in your lifetime or anybody's lifetime, more than likely. ET will be discovered by SETI or JWST or later generation space telescopes. They're not coming here. We're so far out in the boondocks in the galaxy that, you know, they're not going to be coming here. Even if interstellar travel is going on closer towards the centre of the galaxy where the stars are more bunched up, light week apart, maybe. Out here, but that's 25,800 light years away. They're never going to get here. Okay, well, if you've struggled through the video all the way till to this point, thank you very much indeed for watching. Let me know what you think of this format, you know, chatting in the garden format. Would you prefer that I just stick to the clips, commenting on the clips, or do you quite like the chatting in the garden format? Maybe you could let me know in the comments below. Maybe I'll catch you again.